Hello everyone, welcome to this video. So in this video we are going to try and implement a custom light and dark theme in this application you see right here. So if you are wondering how you can implement like a dark and light theme yourself without using any library or any framework, uh, then in this video I am going to show you one way you can do that. Alright. So it is a very simple way, and we are going to implement it in this small application. So as you can see here, I have a very simple app set up here. I created this application using Vite, and here I added Tailwind just to help me style this application a bit faster without writing a lot of CSS. But yeah, we are not going to use the theming from Tailwind. We are going to try and implement the light and dark theme ourselves. Right, so yeah, it's just a basic setup I have here, and if you look at the application, it is an expense tracker. So basically you can add an item, add the price of the item, click add expense, and it's going to add it to the list of expenses you have here, which is keeping track of all the expenses you've made. So yeah, it's a very simple application, and as you can see, I have added a button here to toggle between light and dark theme. It does not work at the moment. I'm clicking on it, but it doesn't actually work yet because we are going to implement that. So let me see what I have here. So here, if I look at my index.css, as you can see, this is the import for the Tailwind, and I have color and then background color here, which I am using the HSLA, so hue, saturation, lightness color code, to set my color and my background color, right? And you would see the reason why I am using this very shortly. So if you come here to my component, we have the theme component here, where we are going to actually implement the theme by clicking on this button to change the theme. Alright, so we will come back to this component a bit later. Let's actually start from the CSS. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is right here I'm going to create some variables. So first of all, I'm going to create a theme variable here, and I'm going to set it to dark. So this is a way to create a variable, a CSS variable, and that variable can be accessed in any part of the application. You can also change this variable in any part of the application. And so here I am setting the theme variable to dark, and in CSS there is a color scheme property which you can set to light or dark. Alright, so I'm going to use this variable. So to use the variable, we do var and then you pass the name of the variable, in this case theme. Alright, so that is the first thing, and as you can actually see, there is already some changes happening here. So you can see that because I set a color scheme to dark, all my input fields background color has changed to dark. And so if I set it to light here, you'd see that it will change to dark, right? So yeah, we've actually seen some small changes going on here using this color scheme. Now with this hue, saturation, lightness color code, what this does is, so if I try with the background color, right, so this is the lightness aspects which we are going to make use of. So the higher the percentage, the lighter the color, and the lower the percentage, the darker the color, right? So if I change this to something like 10%, you'd see that it is going to be dark, right? So 100% means pure white. If I do something like 90, it is going to be this grayish color. Right. So this is the part we are going to be changing for the background color and then the color. So you'd see that if I change this as well to like a higher percentage, like 70, you'd see like my text is almost white, right? It changes to this gray kind of colors. Right, so we are going to be changing the lightness part of our color and our background color. So with that, I am going to also assign variables for them because we want to be able to change it from the code. Right, so I'm going to do text lightness. That will be the name of my variable. And I am going to set it to 100% from the beginning. So if I am setting it to 100% here, then it means that it is going to be very light, as you can see here. Right, so here I'm going to change it to 10% so that it will be darker, this one. And then I am also going to have bg lightness. Right. And with this I am going to set it to 100%. Right. That is what we have here. So here I'm going to replace it with a variable. Right, do dash dash bg dash lightness. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to do the same thing for this as well. So var dash dash, and then I'll do text lightness. So if I save it, I don't have to see any changes because it's the same thing we have here, just assigning them variable names. So in the CSS part, this is the only thing we are going to do. So basically we have these variables that we can change, we can toggle in our code or change the values in our code. So here, this is the first step. It means we can actually close this file. Now the second step is here. I have a helpers.ts file here. I'm going to actually use a function to help me change the CSS variables I set, right, these ones. So it is basically going to be JavaScript modifying the documents, right, the document element. So the way we are going to do that is here. I'm going to say export constant, and then I'm going to say set CSS. Let me just call it set CSS theme, like this. The way I want this to work is, so if I click on this, based on my current theme, I'm going to pass the theme I want to set. Alright, so in this case it is going to be either light or dark theme. So I have a TypeScript file having the type for my theme here. So I'm going to say this is going to accept a theme of type theme. Right, and I need to import it from model. And here, based on the theme we have, we are going to be changing our CSS. We are going to be changing the lightness of the text and then the background. So here I'm going to do a very simple if check here. If theme it's equal to light, so we check if it is light, then we want to change our CSS variable, right? So with that we can use document dot, we do document element, and then we do style, and then we want to use the set property function to set our CSS property. Right. So this set property function is going to help us modify our CSS variables. So here the first argument you are going to be passing is the name of the variable, and the second argument is the value. So here we first of all want to change the background lightness, so bg lightness as we have there, and we want to change it. If it is light, it means that our background is going to be light, right? And if it is dark, it means our background is going to be dark, which means a lower percentage. So what I'm going to do is I am going to set some constants up here. So on top of this function, I'm going to put these constants here. This one is saying light bg percentage, and then dark text percentage, and then this one is dark bg percentage, and then light text percentage. So these are basically going to be the new percentages I am going to set for my CSS variables. So if it is high, it is going to be light. If it is low, it is going to be dark, right? Which means that here the value I'm going to pass is the light bg percentage, which is basically going to be this, meaning it's supposed to be white background. Now we also want to set the text. After setting the background, we also want to set the text. So let me actually collapse this and make room. So when we do this, we want to also do the text lightness. So let me copy that from here. Right, so we do text lightness, and the text lightness is actually going to be the dark text, because when it is light, the text is supposed to be dark. When it is dark, then the text is supposed to be light. So we are going to use the dark text instead. Alright, so we do this for the light, and we are going to do the same thing for the dark as well, right? So if the theme is dark, then we are going to change this one and this one to actually be the dark. Alright, so dark bg percentage, and then we do the light text percentage like this. Alright, so these two are going to change the color and then the background color, but we also want to be able to change the color theme from light to dark. And so with that, we are going to basically do another one of these, but it does not necessarily have to be in the if check, because we are going to set it to the theme that we are going to pass here. So we can basically put it at the top here. So we can do document elements dot style, and then here we do theme, and then the value we are going to set is this theme. Right. So it is first of all going to set a theme, going to change the theme variable. Then if it is light, it's going to change the lightness, the text lightness. If it is dark, it's going to change the PG lightness, and then the text lightness as well to a darker color. So this is what our function is going to basically do, right? Our goal here is to be able to change these, because as I demonstrated, when you change the lightness here, when you increase it, then it is going to be light. When you decrease it, it is going to be dark, right? So our function is basically ready. So how are we going to be able to know the theme we've set at the moment, and then be able to also change our content based on the theme? And then also, where are we going to call this set CSS theme to be able to like set the proper CSS theme based on the theme we pass? So with that, I am going to use a context, right? So I'm using context API because I want all part of my applications to have access to the theme, right? So I can wrap my application in the context. So here I have one context here, which is the expenses context for the expenses I have. I'm going to create another context called team context.tsx, and in the team context it is going to be responsible for changing the theme, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is to actually create the instance of the context itself. So if you've used context before, the way you create a context is by doing export constant. I'm going to call it team context, right, and I'll assign it to an instance of create context from React. That's imported from React here, and I'm going to pass a null here, but I want to type this. I have a model creator for that as well. So here, as you can see, I have the team context, which is basically going to have two properties, right? So the theme and then a function to toggle the theme, that is to change the theme. So here I am going to pass iTheme context as my type. Basically remove this. Alright, so with that, because I'm passing null here, I'm just going to do as any for now, because I'm going to set a default value in the component. Alright, so here I am going to create my team context provider. So export const, I'm going to call it team context provider, which is basically going to be a React component. So for that, I am going to return team context dot provider, and here I'll put a closing tag here. I'm going to pass the value surely, but here is where I'm going to pass children, so that I can wrap it around my component. That means children is going to be the props, and because I'm using TypeScript, I have to pass the type as well. So that's very easy, and I have to make sure I import React node and let this prop also know the type, and yeah, problem solved. Now here I'm going to set up a state here to manage the theme. Right, so here I'm going to use state, and I'm going to call it theme. This is basically going to be the theme we have at the moment, and we are going to use that theme to also change the theme for our CSS. So here I'm going to have set theme, and the type is going to be theme as we have, and let me import that here, and import, collapse this. So I have to pass the initial theme, which is going to be, first of all, let me import this. So my initial theme is going to be light. Alright, so with that, I need to also create the function that will change the theme and set a new state. Alright, so yeah, get a suggestion from my IntelliSense. So it's going to be called toggle theme, and with that, the only thing it's going to do is it is going to check if the theme is currently light or dark, and then change it to the other one. Right, so it's going to say new theme is equal to if theme is equal to light, then set it to dark. Right, so here I'm going to say set it to dark, otherwise set it to light. Right. So this is going to check if the theme is light. Then when I click on this function, when I call this function, it's going to toggle it to dark. Otherwise, if it is dark, then it's going to toggle it to light. Right? Very simple. So once it does this, then we can now set our theme here. we can set our theme here to the new theme, and we can also here call the help function we have here, right? So we can call the helper function, pass the theme to it. It is first of all going to change the theme variable, and it's also going to go here. If it is light, then it's going to change the background and then the text. If it is dark, then it's going to do this. Alright, so this is where we are going to call set CSS theme function from helpers, and then we need to pass the new theme. As simple as that. So once we do this, we can now pass the theme and then also toggle theme here. Right, so our context is basically done. So it means that when we go to app here, where we have all our components, we can now use the theme context provider here. Right, so let me get that closing. Right, and this is going to be the children, and that's what we passed here. Right, so it means all our components are going to have access to the theme. So once I save it, now we can go ahead and then use the theme in any part of our application. So let's actually try and test for the first time to see if our function, our helper function we have there, is actually working. So with that, the theme is actually in the header. So when you go to the header here, we have the theme component here. So with this one, we are going to use the on-click button to call the toggle theme. So let's actually use context hook here. So use context. Let me generate it. Now I'm going to use the theme context. Make sure I import this, and here I have access to toggle theme. Nice. So the only thing we're going to do here, very simple, is to add an on-click. Nice. So an on-click event, and we are going to call this toggle theme. Right. So let's actually check and see if this is working. So I'm going to click on this, and there you go. Very nice. So it changes the theme to dark, and if we inspect the elements, if I try to make this big and we inspect the elements, so let's go here, let me click anywhere here. Right, so we have the element style, right? So at the moment, see, it's dark and it's 14 and 100% for the text. If I change it to light, as you can see, it's changed to light. Then the BG color actually changes to light, that is the higher percentage, and then the text changes to the darker one, right? So this is actually changing correctly when we click on this button. Very cool. So with this done, it also means that based on how we are building our application, we can use the theme to also change the colors and background colors of all our elements on our page. Alright, so what I mean by that is, here I want to do something very quickly. So as you can see, I want to change the icon based on the theme I have at the moment, and at the moment I have this static theme constant here, which I am going to remove because I now have my context. So here, instead of using the constant, I'm going to actually use my theme from my context. Right, and let's see based on the theme which icon we get. So initially it is always this sun icon, but once I save it and I change it, as you can see, it changes to this moon icon. Right, very cool. So based on our theme, we can change different part of the colors on different parts of our applications. So it's the reason why we actually created a context and wrapped all our components in the context. Right. So let me also do this quickly before we wrap up. So as you can see, if it is in light, if it is in dark mode, the border colors are very light. I want it to be a bit dimmer. Alright, so I can also do that. So when let me close some of these components. So when I go to, for example, my form, I also have this constant theme set here, but I am going to use the use context, pass theme context. Make sure I get a theme here. Right, and then here, based on the theme down here, we want to change the border color. Right, so here it is going to replace it with light or dark, and here I created a constant here which is actually checking the light and then the dark properties, and then if it is light it's going to set it to this color, if it is dark it's going to set it to this color. Right, so that is what I am doing here to set the border color. So if I change this now, notice how my border colors have become a bit dimmer than this one. Right, so we can do the same thing for this as well. So if we copy this one instead and then send it to the expense list here, right, this is where we have the no items in your list, and here we have the same thing going on here. So it means we are going to remove this constant, and then here we are going to paste this. Make sure I import that. Right, once I import it and I save it, nice, very nice. So yeah, that is basically it. That is how you can implement custom light and dark theme in your application very easily. So if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more interesting videos like this. Let me know what you think about this as well by leaving your comments below. Like the video if you like it, but as always, thank you for watching, and I am going to see you in the next video.